Good morning, welcome. It's great to have you with us today, and whether you're enjoying all the snow plowing that I've been doing, I think I've plowed my own driveway 6 times already between the different snow coming down, or whether you enjoyed that great Ohio State game. What was it, 83 yards that guy ran? Those who are watching that. So a lot of exciting things going on. And I think what I love about this time of year is that I've got different friends who are interested in different things. And so some are telling me about the Ohio State game, some have been skiing at Perfect North, some are excited about trips coming up. I love that aspect of friendship, that we just share what we love with one another. And sometimes a friend has a different hobby than you have, but you're learning about what they love about art and what they love about a movie or a book, and it's just so awesome to do that together. So today we're continuing our series on friendship. Friends are the kind of folks who they're just there to celebrate when things are going well. But they're also there to be with you when things aren't going so well. I have a good friend this week whose dad had a cardiac arrest. And I called him up and just had a really tender time of thinking about mortality and sadness together. And I called up a buddy of his who I knew was a friend of his at our church, and he gave him a call. And I just love the aspect of friendship, that we're sharing real life with one another. That's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. So thanks so much for being here, and thanks so much for just the friendships represented in this room. Listen to this next song. Let's think about the friends in your life, the ones who've been there on the highest of highs, and also those who've been with you at the lowest of lows.
My friends are so depressed, I feel the question of your loneliness. Confide, 'cause I'll be on your side. You know I will, you know I will. Ex-girlfriend called me up, alone and desperate on the prison phone. They wanna give us all again for being sad. I love all of you, hurt by the cold, so hard and lonely too. When you don't know yourself, my friends are so distressed and standing on the brink of emptiness. No word, no one to express this emptiness. I love all of you, hurt by the cold, so hard and lonely too. When you don't know yourself.
Man, do you have friends like that who've been with you during great times, but also challenging times? I do. Something just awesome about having the kind of friends that can walk through life with you in the good and the bad. In our series, What is a Church Anyway? We've been asking the question, is this a church because it's got a steeple? Or is it a church when you open the door and see all the people? We've been learning that church is really a group of friends that are learning how to love each other, love God, love one another, even love your enemies. But also they're experiencing faith and friendship and a sense of family, even beyond what you have a blood connection to. The church is also about sharing ideas. And as with every good friendship, you share the things you're interested in, they share the things they're interested in, and sometimes those shared ideas become shared ideas. And that's what we're about as a church. In fact, we're trying to comfortably connect people. That's what we're about as a church. We're trying to comfortably connect people to God, the source of love, through the Bible and a community of growing Christ followers. How do we all learn to grow as fathers, as moms, as professionals, grow in a sense of meaning and purpose, or sense of identity, what really matters and significance? That's what we're trying to discover as a church. And today we're going to look at an aspect of what the church is and what it's supposed to be and what we ascribe to, which is that the church is a group of friends who, they cheer you on the way up in life. They also support you when you're down. These types of relationships and cultivating that in us and around us. And at Horizon, I was talking to a buddy of mine who's been coming to our church for many, many years. Many of you may know him. His name's Greg Frappier. He's a doctor. And one of the ways that he's helped those who are down over the years is going on our Belize trips. So he's been on 3 different trips, and we were kind of recounting some trips he did together. A lot of times he'd be in villages, going village to village, helping people who don't have access to doctors ever, and doing real one-on-one care with other doctors from our church. And then other times, he gave up a whole week of his vacation one time and found a way to get a company to donate the first ultrasound that would ever given to the country of Belize, so they'd have an ultrasound as a country. And he spent a week training folks down there. So I was asking Greg, I said, what do you remember about that trip? He goes, well, I remember I roomed with you. I said, I remember that too. He said, you had to put up with my snoring. I do remember that, Greg. He said, I also remember, Chad, you rigged up our hotel room we stayed in so we could watch The Rock with Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery, 315, not Sean Connery. And so we put a big the bed sheet up and a video projector we had, and we watched a movie in there. And while he was doing important stuff like, medical stuff and ultrasounds, I was leading a vacation Bible school down there. But when we arrived, we discovered that no one spoke English. We'd prepared this whole thing based on English. So I had to figure out how to translate what we were doing to nonverbals. So this is my original pink Jesus on a cross, right there. There it is, pink Jesus on a cross. I didn't have any tan balloons, and I was describing how Jesus, through what he did, could carry us. I picked up this kid and carried him from where we are to where hope and meaning is. So that's me when I had hair, in case you don't recognize me there. Well, also, even in our early days as a church, you would notice a sense of friendship. We would gather at people's homes. You'd see in our baptism pool where people were saying, I'm getting serious about my faith. We'd literally do it at people's homes around the pool. You'll see there in the background, people in chairs in people's backyards just celebrating, friends next to kids, next to friends who are celebrating together. In fact, when we first began the church, when I came here 21 years ago, we were in Cincinnati Country Day School. And you'll notice there, Kenny, before his hair was quite as gray. Me again when I had hair, that's me there on the left. And we were just a group of friends trying to figure out how to create environments that would allow all of us to talk about the things that mattered. And over those years, I can't tell you how many folks in this church have been with me in my highest highs and also in my lowest lows. So I'll give you 3 aspects of that type of friendship. The first is that a church is a group of friends that help you find your way. And not only your way, but help find the way. The way to find meaning and purpose, the way to answer questions of death, the way to figure out how to really incorporate significance into your life. So there's a book of the Bible called the book of Acts. It's written right after Jesus died, rose from the grave, and he sends out his disciples to start this group of friendship, to invite people to be part of, knowing that God has defeated death for us all. However, it's not well received by some people, specifically a guy by the name of Saul. So that's where we pick up on our story. Saul, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples. So people don't like this group of friends. A lot of people don't. And Saul is trying to destroy them. And he asked letters from some people who were kind of in charge, so that if he found anyone who were of the way, whether men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. So here's a guy who's trying to destroy the church, this new movement, this friendship circle of people talking about the way. And look at the two words used to describe this new movement of Jesus followers. The first is the word disciples, which comes from a Latin word which means discere, a learner, a student, someone who's learning something. The main thing that followers of Jesus were about is learning. Learning how to love, learning how to discern, learning how to live life to its fullest. And notice what he calls them. He doesn't call them Christians. He doesn't call them a church. He actually calls them those who are of the way. Because Christians would say, I'm following the way of Jesus, and I'm trying to figure out how to live my life the way he lived his life. I want to love like him. I want to forgive like him. I want to serve other people like him. In fact, it's interesting. What you may not know is that the church is not primarily a building, it's people. But also, the church isn't primarily teaching you how to believe something, but how to be like someone. The church, as you saw there, the way, it primarily teaches a way to be like someone. Jesus, whether you believe in him or not, certainly has had one of the most profound impacts on human culture. And people are saying, man, I'd like my life to follow the way in which he lived. I want to be like Jesus. Even more than just believing something, which might be stoic and active, to act like someone is active. You're doing something. You're acting out something. So church, a group of friends saying, hey, what is the way I kind of live in life? And what's Jesus' way? And how do I align these two? So as a church, I remember it was right out here in the parking lot is when we had our groundbreaking. And I remember kind of pushing those shovels in, and some people from Turner Construction and others of us who've been praying for this building and raising money for the building. And I remember us saying, wouldn't it be great if our group of friends that are here had other friends that came? And so sure enough, we broke ground. And before we built any of this facility, we actually put up a tent. Not our big tent you've seen, but the tent from 15 years ago, maybe 17 years ago now. And you can see those big balloons there. Those balloons were over top of what would eventually be the church. So if you've ever been out in our terrace where the baptism is out there, overlooking the lake, that's the big blue balloon. That's what it looked like, 12 feet lower, before we brought in 210 truckloads a day for 90 days to get us to where we are. We gathered together under a tent and we said, man, wouldn't it be awesome if this place could be a place that we invite more friends? The building got built, and when we did that, we actually were just dreaming about children's rooms and student room and atrium, and it was just so exciting that we sent out personal invitations to our friends to invite them to be part of the church. And so our church today is really the result of friends inviting friends and creating spaces where kids are dancing and people are cheering and people are learning what is the way to live the life that really matters. So that's really what a church is. People trying to find the way and make it my way. Secondly, the church is a group of friends who learn how to support each other, hurt with each other when you're down, when things aren't going well. So Saul has been breathing threats against this group of Christ followers. I mean, like literally killing them. He had the authority to do so in his day. But he has an encounter with God that turns his life upside down. As he journeyed, he came near Damascus, that's just the name of a city, and suddenly a light shone around him, this enemy of Jesus, from heaven. Then he fell to the ground, Saul did, and he heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Now, you're either thinking to yourself, wow, I'm having a divine encounter, or I ate something bad for dinner last night. What is this? I'm losing my mind. He takes this as it's been recorded by the historian, that God was speaking to him. But think how weird this would be. I have not been persecuting God. I've been persecuting followers of this kind of abstract, silly, ridiculous, non-Jewish sect, because he was Jewish, Saul was. He thought he was doing the right thing by destroying these people. But Jesus says, when you hurt people, you're actually persecuting me. He makes this connection between the Creator and the people the Creator made. Keep that in mind. We'll come back to that. And Saul says to him, who are you, Lord? I know you're God, but who are you that you think I'm persecuting you? Then the Lord said, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. There's that word again. Is it hard for you to kick against the goads? Which is a really weird phrase. Think of it like in our culture, if you're riding a horse with spurs, and you're kind of spurring the horse to move, and the horse doesn't move. You're kicking to motivate him to go a certain direction, and the horse refuses to out of stubbornness. God's saying, Paul, I'm trying to show you the truth. I've been spurring you on, but you've been kicking against, resisting my nudges, resisting my gentle nudges, so I got your attention this time with the bright light. So 2 things I want you to notice here. One, as a follower of Judaism who is rejecting Jesus, he is shocked to find that the Lord, that's what he calls his God, calls himself Jesus. This is turning his world upside down. The second thing is that how he treats people, including these friends of Jesus, is how he treats God himself. So he's now astonished, next verse says. He's astonished and he's trembling, right? He's having this incredible encounter. And he says, Lord, well, what do you want me to do? How could I have been so off? He said, I want you to arise, go into the city, and you'll be told what to do. You're in a holding pattern. Now, years later, Paul's going to write a letter when he becomes a leader of the Jesus movement. It's one of those powerful examples of why you might want to consider the Bible. How in the world did this guy, who is an enemy of everything about Jesus, has this radical transformation, and he ends up writing most of the books in the back half of the Bible. This guy Saul, he gets renamed Paul. One of those books, he writes this. When you think about the church, it's like a metaphor of a body. As the body is one and has many members, if the foot says, because I'm not a hand, I'm not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? Of course not. If the ear should say, because I'm not an eye, am I not of the body? Is it therefore not of the body? He says, of course not. In your human body, the hand and the eye and the head, it's all an independent organism. It's interdependent. It all matters. He said, what I realized is that when you become a follower of Jesus, it's like we're all part of the body. We've got different purposes, different strengths. But if the hand hurts, the whole body hurts. If your back hurts, the whole body's affected. We care when other people are hurting because we're all part of the same organism. And God is the head. And if he's the head, if he's in us and around us and how we treat each other, how we speak about one another, whether we gossip about each other, how we treat parts of our body is how we treat God. That becomes kind of this metaphor that I think he gets out of this idea from God that when you treat people, it's how you treat me. Here's something you may not know. A church offers this sacred bond with all people. You see, whether you believe in the same religion or not, Christians believe that every human being is sacred. Every human being, regardless of what they believe, atheist, agnostic, Islam, Buddhist, everyone has inherent dignity because they're made in God's image. And so as a Christian, when you subscribe to this idea, you see value in everyone. Because the value doesn't come from how you act or what you do, it comes from who created you. Christianity also offers this blood brother bond with followers of the way. Because what Christianity teaches is that I did the wrong thing, I couldn't rescue myself, so God had to come from heaven to earth and die for me. He bled for me. You ever talk to guys who've been back from maybe Vietnam, or they were in boot camp together? I talked to a guy at our church who just got back from boot camp in the Army. And guys talk like that. who are in the armed forces, they'll say, man, we're blood brothers. We sweat together. We bled together. There's this very unique blood bond. Well, Christianity offers that because someone died for you, someone died for me. Whatever we disagree on, there's something we have far more in common with. Someone died for us and bled for us. There's this really unique connection. Care about everybody, but a blood bond for those who are part of the church. Did a wedding this last year, and it was a really neat story the father of the bride told me. It was the bride back in college. She went to Miami University, and part of her sorority was to donate some blood. So she donated some blood and didn't think much of it. And a couple years later, she gets a call. Says, hey, you remember that blood drive you did? Honestly, she'd kind of forgotten. You're an exact match to somebody from Chicago who's dying, and your blood might be able to save them because of X, Y, and Z. Would you be willing, this came kind of third party, would you be willing to donate your blood? If you would, we'd be willing to give you a couple-day vacation. You pick the location. You can give in Chicago. You can give in Orlando. I'll go to Orlando. She goes down to Orlando or somewhere in Florida. She gets a little mini vacation. She gives her blood several days. There was a lot of prep work. It was several days sitting in a machine, pumping out blood. Next day, pumping out blood. And she didn't hear much from it. Literally months go by. She had no idea if it worked or didn't work because it was all third party. So we're at the wedding ceremony, and as we're there, the father bride says, you're not going to believe it, but my daughter's blood saved this man's life. And he reached out and wanted to tell her. So he told her, hey, listen, I'm a father. You saved my life. I literally was given 3 months to live. Your blood saved me. And said, Chad, you're not going to believe this, but he's going to be at the wedding tomorrow. They're not family friends. We've never known them, but we invited them to the wedding. So at the wedding the next day, he has a little daughter. Maybe she was 10, 12, I can't remember. She walks up to the bride, and she says, because you gave your blood for my dad, he will one day be able to walk me down the aisle the way you're being walked down the aisle by your dad. Thank you. Man, that beautiful? When someone gives something for you, saves you from something you couldn't save yourself from, it creates this unbelievable bond. And that's what happens with Christianity. Someone gave his life to save me. You too? You too? There's this blood brother bond there. And that's why you want to help people who are hurting, because you were hurting. You were in a place you couldn't rescue yourself. And so if God made us, and if God would die for us, I'm suddenly a someone. And I'm someone who wants to support you when you're down, when you're having difficulties. And now Paul, who is all-powerful, has now been blinded by this light. He's now down. And look at how the disciples, the followers of Jesus, help him. So Saul arose when his eyes were opened, and he saw no one. He's been blinded by this light. However, at the same time, there was a certain disciple, a learner, right, learning to be like Jesus, at Damascus, the town, named Ananias. And to him, the Lord said in the vision, Ananias, arise, go down to that street called Straight, just the name of the street, inquire at the house of Judas for Saul of Tarsus. Behold, he is praying. Here's the guy, here's the address. Go down there and help that guy. Well, this guy's a famous Jesus follower killer, right? Yeah, I've heard of this guy. I think it's a bad idea, God. So Ananias is like, hey, God, I think you got the wrong guy. So here's what Ananias says. Lord, I have heard from many about this guy. I've been avoiding this guy. I've been hiding out from this guy. The last thing I want to do is go find the guy. He's been trying to find us. How much harm he has done to your saints in Jerusalem, the bad stuff he's done, the wayward stuff he's done. And the Lord said to him, go. He is a chosen vessel of mine, and he's going to bear my name before Gentiles, kings, and the children of Israel. And Ananias is someone who meets someone named Saul, ends up mentoring him, helping him, and he becomes the leader who writes more material that's influenced the Western world than probably anyone in history. And when Saul was down, Ananias was scared, he was still willing to support a guy who had done bad things because he had been forgiven when he had done bad things. As a church, that's what we try and do. We try and support each other in our highs and our lows. One of my favorite ways we support families, just at our 8:30 service today, I was meeting with a man whose wife just passed away, and we're planning the funeral in a few weeks. And it's always tender moments of what's the best way to honor and to mourn and to grieve with one another. And sometimes the funerals are very, very different. I remember a couple years ago, my friend Tad Lawrence died of pancreatic cancer, stage 4, and he fought it in amazing ways. And before he died, he said, I want to have my funeral before my funeral. So we actually got up on a Thursday night or something. He packed this place out with all his friends, and we did an interview. I think it was like a couple months before he died. He wanted to talk about the faith he had facing death through Jesus. It was just amazing. And a few months later when he died, the place was packed. This place was packed, the atrium was packed. And he had requested at the end of his funeral that they would we'd play on the CD Frank Sinatra's I Did It My Way, because he was such a maverick, if you knew Tad. And as we start playing the song, just as the kind of walkout song, people start popping up and walking onto the stage, and people are dancing on our stage at the funeral to I Did It My Way by Frank Sinatra. Because if you'd ever hung out with Tad, every party he ever went at, he played the piano, and people just loved the spirit of joy he brought, even when facing pancreatic cancer. It was an amazing show of support for one another. This week, I've had a couple guys on the last month. One this week and several others. Man, my marriage is in a difficult spot. I'm in a real weird spot. I got kind of caught in this awkward circumstance. I'm having a conversation, sitting down with somebody and just saying, man, I'm going to be your friend through this. Do we have other friends at Horizon that could be a support for you in this? Yeah, we can get you some resources to help, some counseling for your marriage, or some resources to help with that sticky issue you're going through. You know, one I don't talk about very often. I don't do it a whole lot, but sometimes all of us, no matter how good our resumes look, we make stupid decisions and get in trouble. Sometimes we can get in legal trouble. We had a member of our church who had gotten some pretty serious legal trouble, and I remember going down to the jail where they were being held, and they didn't know I was coming. And I remember, if you've never been to a jail, it's pretty intimidating. You go in, I'm the pastor, I'm here to see so-and-so, and they buzz you in, and you walk past the door, and you hear that thing click behind you. It's very, very intimidating. You're kind of thinking, man, to be here, whatever happened, whatever led to this, got to feel very lonely, got to feel very like your life's coming apart. I remember sitting down with the little glass screen and the little camera, and this person from our church came in, and they sat down. As soon as they walked in the door and they saw my eyes, just this look of absolute shame came over them. I can't believe you know. They pick up the phone, and I said, hey, we all make mistakes. We all make big mistakes. And I'm not here to do anything but be your friend. How can we help? What kind of support can we give? And the beauty of the church is that if all of our secrets were put up on a screen, if all of our boneheaded moments were put up on a screen, who would want that? And yet we bring that kind of humility to the table to say, hey, I hope somebody's going to support me if I do something stupid. I hope I don't do something stupid. If I do, I hope someone will be there for me, to be that friend who's with me during those dark times. Who doesn't want friends like that? When everybody else turns their back, who says, I'm going to be a friend with you through this challenging time. However, the church is also a group of friends who cheers you on when things are at their best, right? Like, who doesn't want somebody who comes, they're not jealous of your success, they're not threatened by your success, they're like, I am so glad to see how your hobbies, your interests, your career, your passion is growing. And Saul is going to go from kind of being blinded to God heals him of his blindness, but now he's going to be a rising star that's going to eventually change the world, no exaggeration. And when Saul had come to Jerusalem, he's been following Jesus for a while. He's now coming to kind of the hub of Christianity, because these were Jewish people who believed Jesus was their Messiah, and hanging out mostly in Jerusalem, the leaders. And when he tried to join the disciples, those learning to be like Jesus, They didn't believe he was a disciple. No. This is like CIA stuff. This is like KGB. You're going to pretend and infiltrate the organization so you can figure out how to kill us more off, right? And who wouldn't be like that? You've been killing people. I'm not going to let you in. But a guy named Barnabas took him and brought him to the apostles. A guy named Barnabas says, listen, I see what God's doing in your life. I see the mistakes you made in the past. I see the progress you've made. And I'm going to vouch for you. And Barnabas was a huge leader. He had a lot of reputation he's putting on the line here. And he's saying, I'm celebrating what God's doing in you. I'm celebrating this path God has for you. I see the change you're making. I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader. And he does. He's going to mentor Paul for the next 3 years. Really sets him up to be the man he is. He declared to them, Barnabas says, hey, listen, I've seen this. Let me tell you how he saw Jesus, the Lord, on that road that day. And I have seen him since then boldly proclaim that he's a Jesus follower in the very town where he was trying to kill Jesus followers. And Barnabas ends up celebrating with him and cheering him on and mentoring him to become the man he eventually becomes. Do you have mentors or coach? Maybe it's your parents. Somebody who cheered you on and you went, man, I need more people in my life like that. The church is to make us disciples, right? There's the word, disciples. We're going to learn to cheer people on, to rejoice with those who rejoice, to build each other up, to affirm each other, to encourage one another. That's what the group of friends is about. And do you notice the names here? You may not realize this, but church leaders didn't have fancy names. Brother Chad, Father Chad, church leader Chad. Notice they're just names. It's just Paul and Peter, Barnabas, and Ananias. These were just people who came to find God's forgiveness, who shared it with their friends. What's so unique about this new Jesus movement is there's no more priests or ministers. So what is a priest? A priest is somebody who intercedes between God and people, right? So a person has a problem, I'll be the priest. Let me tell God about that. God, so-and-so has a problem. Will you listen to them? A priest is also somebody who takes God's word and speaks it to people. Hey, God, what do you have to say? Okay. God says that you really should forgive somebody. This Jesus movement says that everybody is now a minister. There's not some special class of people who are hired by the church. Everybody can intercede. Everybody can talk directly to God without an intermediate. Everyone can pray for their own friends. I'm fine to pray with you, but you also have your friends pray with you. Everybody is suddenly qualified to intercede between us and God because Jesus lives in them. This was radical. No religion taught anything like this. You can be a priest, you can be a minister because you have God's Spirit in you. Wow. Now the word apostles, you saw in that passage, he said he's going to bring Saul to the apostles. So the word apostles was just a fancy word, kind of a religious word that just meant the original 12 disciples who'd followed Jesus. So everyone was disciples, but the 12, now there were so many disciples, they called them the apostles. Can't remember, these are the 12 people who went with Jesus for 3 years. So Jesus is trying to create people who we look around in your life and you say, how can I bless somebody? How can I forgive somebody? How can I encourage somebody? How can I build somebody up in my life? Don't we all need that? Doesn't life just kind of kick you in the teeth and tear you down too often? Don't we need people? Just talked to my friend Jim, whose wife just passed away, and the family just said every day she was so kind. Everybody around her just lit up. And since she's passed away the last week, all the emails and texts, people said how kind she was, how her devotion to Jesus showed itself in how she just loved people and text people on anniversaries and tough things and difficult times and medical procedures. It just flowed out of her, this cheering one another. And I want to be part of a group like that. And we are. That's what we're aiming to do here as a church. So how about you? What does it look like to be a friend or to find a friend of the mountains and the valleys? I want to find a friend who will cheer me on when I'm on the mountains. Oh, that's so exciting. I heard the good news. And also, man, I heard you're going through a tough time. I want you to know I'm here if you need anything. What would it look like for you to be a friend to the people in your life? To make that call, to send that text, to send that email? In the midst of all the busy things, to say, man, I know my friend's got something I'd like to celebrate with. Or to find a friend, to say, I'd like to connect. I'd like to deepen some of my relationships beyond just the superficial. We try and make it as easy as possible at Horizon. If you say, well, I'm enjoying the services, but I'd like to kind of deepen some friendships. If you're a woman at the church, we've got a women's group starting called Fast Track Promises. We're going to gather together, meet some other women, connect with them, and also look at different promises from the Bible and learn how to incorporate some of those promises into your life. As a guy, we have a group called Authentic Manhood. If you ever come, you can have never been to one before. They're all independent. Each week you can come. It stands on its own. It's a chance to get with other guys, share good stuff going on. We can kind of high-five each other and celebrate the great stuff in your life. Or to say, man, I'm not sure how to do this, and man, husbands and wives think so differently. Do you have any advice on what the way might be to square these differences of opinion? Just have real conversations about real life. Be a friend and find a friend. That Authentic Manhood's coming up here soon, and it's going to be a totally different session than any of the ones we've done before. So I invite the band to come out, and during this next song, what does it look like if God would say to you, he wants to be your friend? And the interesting thing about the Bible is the Bible doesn't say, hey, kind of pretend you're better than you are, put on a good face, it's all sales and marketing. He says, come to me with the good and the bad. I mean, Saul certainly came to him with a lot of bad. If God can forgive Saul, if God can use Saul, if God could transform Saul, if God would reach out and befriend Saul, then he'll befriend any of us. And he wants to. And he wants to have a real relationship with us. I love this next song because it's really about almost like God's voice saying to us, if you've been broken, if you've been shattered, if you got some things in your life, some secrets or some sharp edges or some rough spots, come to me. I want to put you back together again. So hear this next song as God sing to us.
Don't wanna be. You breathe more than you breathe. You just wanna fall to pieces and nights. As 2 a.m. calls, your dreams become walls. You just need a break. Break on me, shatter like glass. Come apart in my hands. As long as it takes, girl. Break on me, put your head on my chest, let me help you forget. When your heart needs to break, just break on me. There'll be times someone you know becomes someone you knew. Do anything to change it in words you wanna take back, but you know you can't. The pages won't turn and it still hurts. Break on me, shatter like glass. Come apart in my hands. Take as long as it takes, girl. Break on me, put your head on my chest. Let me help you forget. When your heart needs to break, just break on me. When you need somebody, when you need somebody right now, you're around me. Break on me, shatter like glass, come apart in my hands. Take as long as it takes, girl, break on me. Put your head on my chest, let me help you forget. Your heart needs to break, just break.
And who doesn't want a father that can take the pieces when they get broken and put them back together? Yeah, I've got kind of a unique perspective on this because my dad is just a master craftsman, and he does stained glass. And he will come and take pieces of glass, and they'll just be shattered into pieces. And he'll literally shatter them sometimes and take them, begin to weld them together. And for my birthday 2 years ago, he knows I love Star Wars, and so he said, I want to make you something for your birthday. So he shatters this glass and picks it up, and I said, I really would like Boba Fett from Star Wars holding baby Grogu because I don't like Mandalorian. I'd like to ship the slave one. And so sure enough, my dad shattered this glass, put together this masterpiece just for me. It's sitting in my office glowing there. And it's just amazing how in the hands of a master, whatever's been shattered, whatever's broken, whatever seems worthless, pain in your life or mistakes in your life, can be put together into a beautiful masterpiece. Now, it may not be Boba Fett for you, but God can make a masterpiece out of what's been shattered in your life. Thanks for being here. We'd love to put a name with the face. Third door on the left's the hearth room. I'll be there in a few minutes. We'd love to meet you, help connect you. We're here, yours to explore. We want to know how we can serve you better. Thanks for being here today.